And we are live back again with Peter Milligan and Sophie Sandel. And today, because we are starting the year, it's nice to start with things that can make our life better. So today we are giving you the 9 ways of being a better version of yourself. So a better you. So we agree with that each one of us would have 3. So we will do it like carousel. So I will start, if you don't mind. This is the privilege of having the microphone at the beginning. And I will give 1, and then I will pass to Sophie, and then to Peter, and back to me. So my first one, number 1, but not necessarily the most important, because I'm keeping the best ones to the last. The first one is never regret. I got this from a kind of crazy experience, because the day I went out of my house after divorce, I was walking around the street and I saw some posters from the Carrera sunglasses company. So, and they had this kind of image saying, Carrera, after all, no regrets. And that actually was an interesting moment, because I was thinking, do I regret 17 years of marriage? Do I regret that I took the decision of getting married? Would my life be different? Would my life be better because I ended up divorcing, so it was a failure? So it was really interesting, because I stopped and started reading that, after all, no regrets. And I thought, really, regrets are the most stupid thing that we can have in life. And it's something that really can stop us from being happy. Because we always regret, because we always think that the thing that we did or that we didn't do would make our lives better if we have done it, if we have done it in a different way that we are doing. And this is stupid, because we will never know. We will never know, because we don't live in parallel lives. We don't know exactly what would happen if we would make a decision on one way or the other. We cannot know. But what we know is that what we are now, what we are living now, is a result of all the good and bad decisions, all the good and bad events that we have. And that is for sure. But the future that we think that we lost, not necessarily is the best, because in that alternative future we might be even dead. We don't know. We might have crossed the street in the wrong moment because we were doing another thing, and probably we wouldn't enjoy many things that we have enjoyed. So regretting is really, really stupid. And if you stop to regret, if you are like something, oh, I regret I didn't do this or that or that, you are losing time, you are losing energy that you need in order to build a better you. So that's my first one. Now it's to Sophie.
Yes. Yeah, well, my first tips for being the better version of you is to always have a lot of self-compassion in your life for yourself. And that means that you are empathetic to yourself and for you not being perfect. And I've noticed that when you have periods of procrastination and self-doubt and you're like not believing in that you can do anything, that's when you don't give yourself that. You try to be perfect and you don't do anything until you are perfect, until you're perfectly prepared. And I think that you should try out new things, because you learn, as a human being, you learn from new experiences. That's the only thing you can learn from. And when you then forgive yourself quickly and get over that things were not perfect, you're definitely giving yourself like a safe space. So more self-compassion, more self-love, and looking after yourself in a better way. And some people have a very noisy, angry inner critic, and I do believe that you know, if it's really, really loud, maybe you need to get some professional help. If it's just a little bit noisy, see if you can do some kind of warming up exercises before you start doing anything creative. So if you, for instance, do public speaking, always warm up properly before, because then your body and your whole mind is going to be more relaxed, and you're going to be not going to be that scared when you go on stage, for instance. And whatever it is, you know, prepare yourself well, then you won't fall that hard if you're not successful. So self-compassion.
Okay, thank you. Peter, your turn.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Well, the first of my three is to know yourself. So before I say any more, I think I'm kind of taking it as for granted that we understand we have to take care of ourselves physically and all that entails. So my three are around the way we think and feel and act. So know yourself. I think it's really, really important to recognize that you contain within yourself the capacity for good and the capacity for evil. I think it's far better to understand that, and then you have more chance of consciously making a choice rather than thinking that you're always the good person and other people are the bad people. And in psychology we call that projection, where you take something you don't like about yourself and you throw it out onto somebody else and say, look, they're bad for a whole bunch of reasons. And I actually think it's far more powerful to look within yourself and say, how does that behavior that I see in another reflect something that I perhaps do? Maybe not in the same way, but perhaps there's something about me that they're showing back to me, which perhaps I don't like, but at least you can understand it. Someone once said the best way to understand other people is to look inside yourself, and the best way to understand yourself is to look at other people. So that's something to consider. Yeah, because I think it's part of being human. I think we all have the capacity for success. We all have the capacity for failure. I think, as Sophie said, this is the process of learning. This is what life is about. And we're all on this journey. So enjoy it, accept it, understand it, work with it, but ultimately become more of a conscious chooser of your actions, and understand that you will often have very self-centered motives for doing things. Just be aware of that, and perhaps over time you'll come to make better choices. So that's mine.
Okay, so from my side, number 4 is never stop learning. Never stop learning, and it connects with what Peter was saying, because also never stop learning about yourself, because we are so complex and, by the way, dynamic in terms of personality. So the people that we are now are probably the people that we are now is different from the people that we were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So it's very interesting to learn about ourselves, and also it's very in professional terms, it's very, very important to always update yourself, because we live in a world where things go very fast, and it will be faster and faster. So if you don't update yourself, you will have a lot of problems. But all of this is connected with another thing, that is my belief that the brain is like a muscle. If you don't exercise it by learning different things, different skills, you will start to get old, really old. You will have an old brain. So I know people, unfortunately, they are on their 20s, that they have an older brain than people that are on their 90s. This is because if you don't stop learning, your brain is still in action, always in action. It's a big mistake that, for instance, because of the retirement plans and everything, the generation, the previous generation to my generation, started thinking, okay, I can learn things until I'm 50, 55 maybe, and then I cannot. It's only waiting for retirement. So it will be stopped to learn because it will be retirement. Fortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, our generation has a different challenge. I normally like to scare people with this. Our generation, guys, will be the first one to have this kind of challenge, to be 80 years old, and we might be unemployed. I'm not saying retired, unemployed, looking for a job. And to avoid this kind of situation, we have to think from the beginning, never, never stop learning. So, number 5, to Sophie.
Yeah, my number 5 is to be more conscious about how much you sleep. And being sleep deprived is a very common problem, and we spend our nights watching different TV series and surfing the web. And I think that we all need to sleep, like somewhere between 6 and 8 hours per night. And when you stop sleeping properly, you become more, how can you say, you live like in a fog, and you're not connecting with people around you. And I've been to some meetings with people who are really, really tired, and when you sit there and you meet them, you are like, it's like hard to connect. If you would like to improve yourself this year, try to sleep more and see if you can find some help to do it. You know, there are books about how to sleep better. I started to track my sleep with one of those fit bands, and it's interesting to see how much you sleep. And it's not 100% perfect. I wouldn't say that it's replacing a proper investigation. You know, if you are not sleeping at all, you know, you need to go to your doctor. But it's good to be conscious about your average sleep and how you can improve it. Maybe you need a new pillow, a new duvet. I know that some people sleep better with a heavy duvet and a different kind of pillow, a different kind of light in the bedroom. And I wouldn't recommend anyone to use an app on your mobile phone and have that in your bed and sleep with that, because it could be, it's dangerous. It's not good for fire safety, so don't do that. If you would like to track your sleep, use some kind of band instead. That's better. But well, anyway, when we are sleeping better for a period, you become more enlightened and you're not that scared any longer, because you are, you know, you're putting your body on fire from the inside instead of sort of burning it from the outside.
Okay, thank you. And sleeping is a third of our life. So if we manage to do something with a third of our life, we really can improve our life. Number 6, Peter.
I think sleeping is about a quarter of my life, but anyway, at least the quality is good, I think. Okay, so my second one, which is our number 6, is to be open-minded. So this is a bit like Filipe's never stop learning. I think open-mindedness is an interesting challenge for all of us. Exactly 30 years ago this year, I commenced my studies in psychology. And the very, very first assignment or essay that I had to research for was on something called cognitive dissonance. So cognitive dissonance is when we struggle to hold two thoughts, two ideas at the same time if they contradict. So a simple example might be if you're going to buy a product or a car, you'll research and research and research, and you get it down to maybe 2 different ones, and you're struggling to decide which one, and eventually you make a decision. And once you've decided that that's the one you want, what you then do is you spend a lot of time reading up all the good things about the one you've decided to buy, and happy to see any bad reviews about the one you decided not to buy, because that way you can convince yourself that you've made the right decision, because it would be horrible to think that you got it wrong. Now, the whole thing around open-mindedness is interesting, because we do carry a lot of beliefs about the way the world works and what's going on in politics and business and, you know, in our personal lives and with our friends and so on, and even about ourselves. And the older I get, the more I begin to recognize that a lot of the time we're living a lie. We're being deceived by other people. We're being deceived by ourselves. I remember waking up to this one day when I was a young man in my early 20s, living at home with my parents. The evening news came on the television, and there was a well-known newsreader at the time, attractive young woman, was on the television, and I announced at the table that that she was having an affair with a particular footballer, and this is in Adelaide, where I was living at the time. And it was brilliant because my dad looked across the table at me and he said to me, "Were you under the bed?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Were you under the bed?" He said, "How do you know that she's having an affair with this footballer?" And he stopped me in my tracks because I realized that I was simply repeating a rumor that was going around. Now, the simple fact is it may or may not have been true, and I don't know. So that for me was a wake-up call. And I'm a big fan of conspiracy theories. I think we should always allow and have conspiracy theories simply because it forces us to think, hey, maybe there's an alternative narrative. And that's the great thing about the internet, because we can find these things and explore them and play with different ideas and just keep an open mind.
Peter, you remind me about in the early stages of the internet, I used to go to news groups of conspiracy theories, and it was absolutely amazing how, because it's out of the box thinking, and you have to really challenge yourself, and it was, some of them were absolutely wonderful in terms of what was the other, let's say, the other script of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Just one more thing on that. I think even if 20% of all those theories might have something in them, I think it's worth considering, because I think it's very easy to forget that what we're fed through mainstream media is, by company, owned by corporations and governments, and they may have another agenda. I think let's celebrate the fact that you can access an alternative narrative. But the important thing is to think for yourself and be open-minded.
So number 7, it's up to me, and theoretically now are the 3 last ones. So it theoretically are the best ones. So my 3rd one is never underestimate the power of your subconscious mind. When we talk about subconscious, normally we think about psychologists and psychiatrists and having some drugs in order to control the situation. And also, we always think that we are very conscious about our decisions. Everything we are human beings, we are conscious about what we do. My view is that we are not. We are most of our decision, what we call values, and all the behaviors, even the way we communicate, everything is subconscious mind doing. And it's very interesting how we have programs that allow us to do very complex activities, like riding a bicycle, like typing in a computer, like driving a car. And those are subconscious activities, because if we try to make it conscious activities, we will not be able to ride a bicycle. We will type a lot of errors. We will be having a car crash very, very fast. So we have to understand that. First, be aware of the power of the subconscious. Be aware that we can turn it to an ally of what we really want. But it will, if we are not aware, it will be our worst enemy. It will be the thing that will sabotage. So, for instance, you were talking about procrastination. So that is the subconscious working. It is basically saying, I don't want to do that. I want to do another stuff. And we are saying, no, no, but we want to do it consciously. We are conscious that we want to do it. But the subconscious doesn't want. And it's like having a board where 90% of the votes are of the subconscious. Let's go for a vote. Subconscious wins. Subconscious wins always. So the only way is to negotiate with the subconscious. I will not go further with this, but to give you a very short example, I use this in order to get myself in shape. I managed to lose in less than 1 year 42 kilos. And why? Because I negotiated with my subconscious. I really went to my subconscious and said, okay, guys, I know that subconscious loves you. I had to arrange other type of rewards to the subconscious mind in order to work this out. And here I am, still with less 40 kilos after almost 2 years of losing them. No problem, easy. Because I started, not because I went to the nutritionist, the gym and everything, because first I solved the problem in my head. Then I went for the technical support for it. Because the problem is that people are always looking for some magical pill outside. And it can be for psychological problems, to achieve goals, to get thinner, whatever. But most of the time, it starts with our brain. Our subconscious mind is really, really important. And that is my third and last and number 7 from our list. So now, Sophie, your turn.
Yeah, the tips number 8 is about saying no. Yeah. And I'm very pro this, and I've been very pro this for the last few years, to try to say no to things that are not important. And it means that you are like setting boundaries around yourself. And it's sort of, I had a breakthrough on my saying no thing when I went to a workshop with a friend about how you are expressing yourself and what you're letting into your life. And if you are always saying yes to things that are actually not very productive for yourself because you're just scared of losing out, we are suffering from the FOMO syndrome, fear of missing out. And we just have to stop doing that. And you don't have to watch all the latest movies. You don't have to watch everything on TV. You don't have to check everything all the time and be everywhere all the time. You are fine as you are. Maybe you need to take that time to do projects that are really important for you and your family and your friends. Be focusing on them instead of focusing on things that don't matter. And for instance, I can give some examples of myself and saying no. It's not a problem for me to say no to something that I'm not emotionally involved in. But I find it quite hard when a friend or someone is asking me to do something. Sometimes I can find it really hard to say no because we have an emotional connection. And I made a decision that if it's something that's going to be just of benefit for the short term, maybe I won't do it. I will sort of say no thank you another time. And for some people it's really hard to formulate this no thank you without feeling really weird about themselves. And then also, if you have a project, I have a friend who's been writing a book for I think 3-4 years, and in his case I think that he's like prioritizing things else, like cleaning his house, cooking food, trying to keep up with everything else instead of spending a few extra hours on writing his book. So he says yes to lots of stuff which he knows will take the time away from him. And we do this all the time. So I think, stop watching the unnecessary TV series, start doing things that are good for yourself, and explain for yourself like the different way, experiment like the different way you can say no. There's many different ways to say no without being like, I don't know, you don't have to insult other people by saying no. So say yes to yourself instead.
Okay. Thank you very much. And the final one from Peter, number 9.
Thank you. So my number 9 is almost a bookend to the one that you both did at the beginning, the two that you did at the beginning. So Filipe said never regret, Sophie said self-compassion. My final one is to be open-hearted, and that means to accept yourself and to accept others as to where they are right now in life. Because the truth is that every single person is doing the best they can according to their level of consciousness and their circumstances at this present time. I often use the expression, if people knew better, they'd do better. And the journey is to constantly learn and develop and grow. So I've been on a bit of a journey personally in recent times. I mentioned the conspiracy theory things. I've looked into all sorts of things. I've started to really open my mind up to the fact that you know, the financial system is you know, isn't serving society, and there needs to be a better way. That, you know, there are you know, the war on terror is probably more a war of terror. There are all sorts of false flag scenarios where governments can be setting people up to scare them into compliance and to do what they want. You know, I don't know how much of this is true, going back to my previous point, but I think there's a lot of evidence that there is not always good practices in large corporations and in governments. And that's because they're made up of human beings like you and me, people who have both good and evil within them. And I think it's accepting that fact. Now, there were moments where I got totally outraged by things that I discovered. I mean, just really upset and really angry. And I think because I couldn't believe that, you know, people could do these things to people. But I think ultimately we all need to rise above that, and I think we have to actually say, you know, that everybody, no matter who they are, what their position, where they're sitting, what they're doing, is doing the very best they can under the circumstances with their level of consciousness. Who are we to say that we wouldn't behave the same way in those same circumstances with that level of consciousness? So I think ultimately we have to find a better way. We have to say, okay, clearly that isn't something that works particularly well for you know, humanity. And so for me, it's also exciting to find people that are doing amazing things in the world, stuff that you won't always see in mainstream media. And I think it's really important to you know, recognize that, support that, emulate it, talk about it, you know, to show that there's an alternative way of living in this world. Because ultimately, if the human race is going to make it, we have to find a better way than the one we're using at the moment. So it's a pretty big sort of theme to end on, I guess. But coming back to the simple point of being open-minded and open-hearted, I think being angry I think anger is a good thing in that it's a source of energy. But I think if we direct it to simply attack other people, we're just perpetuating the problem. And it reminds me of a great quote from Mother Teresa when they were asked her if she would, you know, go to an anti-war march, and she said, "No, I wouldn't." But she said, if they had a march for peace, she said, I'd be there. So that's my final one.
Okay. So I will give like the overview of our list. So number 1, never regret. Number 2, self-compassion. Number 3, know yourself. Number 4, never stop learning. Number 5, sleep better. Number 6, be open-minded. Number 7, never underestimate the power of the subconscious. Number 8, learn to say no more times. And number 9, I put it like this. Let's say if you are, you agree with me, Peter, find the best in people. Is that?
Yeah, I called it open-hearted, but yeah, find the best in yourself and others.
Okay.
Or accept people for where they are right now.
Okay. Very good. So, guys, thank you very much for another lovely conversation. It's always a pleasure to be with you, and it goes with number 4. Never stop learning. So I always learning with you guys. So this is my learning exercise also, and I hope it's for you too. And I hope that it's also for our audience. So guys, thank you very much for another fantastic hangout, and
Thank you.
see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.